You're listening to the Beyond Measurements and Image podcast, where we build healthier lifestyles, elevate your well-being, and transform lives. Welcome to BMI.
I'm your host, Dr. Drew Crawford. I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist and obesity medicine specialist. Thank you for joining me today on the Beyond Measurements and Image podcast. In this episode, our guest shares how his journey on two wheels led to powerful breakthroughs in both his mental and physical freedom. A journey that started as a solo ride toward healing shifted gears into a movement to build personal connection, emotional support, and mental fitness alongside fellow riders. His story stands as a beacon, reminding us that even in the midst of struggling, being present is enough, and sometimes that's where the real transformation begins. Let's get into it. Today, we're joined with Brad Huff. Brad is a retired professional cyclist. His CV includes what he considers one of his greatest attributes is that he is a staunch, clean athlete. He reports it took 10 years to become pro. He was a 13-year pro cyclist. He was a two-time Pan American Championship gold medalist. He was a two-time pro criterium champion. He was almost an Olympian in 2008, having placed third. He has a very different route to health and wellness, but it's a great take, and he has gone from an eating disorder to what he refers to as the man that ate Brad Huff. Brad, thanks for joining.
I'm super stoked to be here.
All right. So, Brad, grew up in Missouri.
Bear Grove, Missouri, a little small farm town.
Yeah. What was life like growing up?
Both of my parents were from there. Population was 919 whenever I was in high school. My class was 51. So that meant I got to play all the sports. I got football, basketball, track and field. I've tried out for baseball all 4 years in a row just to say I did it because I wasn't very good at baseball. And then in college, I wasn't good enough for real sports, so I became a cheerleader. But throughout that time, I actually jumped on a mountain bike in high school. And I even remember telling my high school coach that, hey, coach, I got a mountain bike race on Sunday. And he said, well, Huff, just be at practice on Monday, okay? That's all I really care about. And so, endurance athletics was a key part of my childhood. And now I realize I kind of sought it as an escape to find stability in my mental health, even though I didn't understand what mental health or mental fitness, as I like to say it these days, finding that stability, kind of handling the ADHD kid that I am. My name is BRADHD. So you could spell my name in ADHD. And I really utilized athletics my entire, upbringing up until this point today to help stabilize myself. And so I'm really lucky that I was from a small town. I could play sports. I was a good enough athlete to play all those sports. And then in college, I gravitated to cycling just because it was an escape. It got me out on the roads, burned calories, really helped me have a lot more freedom in life. As a friend told me this incredible quote, cycling enables us to move through space. And I added under our own volition. And so we're able to process information as it comes to us and assimilate through and not just ruminate on it. As a cyclist, you're just continually taking in information. So it cleanses you as you go. And I just sought that out. And I didn't realize why I was seeking it out, but it was just so freeing to be on a bike, riding on trails, on the roads. And just so happened that I actually moved up the sport really fast. I went from a beginner, which was called a Cat 5 on road, and made it all the way to a Cat 2 in less than a year. I made the national team. I went to my first national team race in Hokkaido, Japan. And I got dropped like a rock because I did not know what I was doing. I was green. I was like the freshman on the varsity squad. And I came back having gotten dropped like a rock and gave myself an eating disorder because I needed to be skinnier to be faster. I didn't understand I needed to train more properly. I needed to get more skill set. I didn't understand that. So I only saw the fact that I got dropped. I did not keep up with the pack on a hill. So I needed to lose more weight. Gave myself an eating disorder along the way. I called it sports anorexia.
So to go from Cat 5 to Cat 1, you did that in a year?
Less than a year. Actually, Cat 2. So I didn't make it all the way up.
So a typical cyclist, how old were you when you started?
19 when I started road bikes, 16, 17 whenever I started mountain bike.
What's typical 18, 19-year-old that wants to go from Cat 5 to Cat 2? Is it a 3 year?
Takes several years.
5 years?
Oh, it could be 2. It could be 3, depending on the athleticism in that individual and what their potential is.
Yeah.
Luckily, because I had a background in athletics, I moved up pretty fast. I was really quick, so I didn't realize I was a sprinter. I just went out there and grind the pedals all day and try to become stronger like the Tour de France guys. I started cycling because, I wasn't going to do cheerleading my second year in college. So I was pretty thick. I was muscular, but I wasn't a large man. I was 175 pounds-ish with more upper body mass. And then whenever I got into cycling, I dropped down to about 155, 160 pounds. And then when I gave myself an eating disorder, the lightest I got down to was 137 and a half pounds.
Wow.
My legs looked like a bodybuilder. They looked like salmon. I mean, I had veins all over my legs, but I was weak. I was fragile. I had tons of overuse injuries during that period. And then had an Achilles tear, which took me off the bike. I became extremely depressed, put on a lot of weight. 2000, I gave myself the eating disorder. I came back to cycling in 2003 as the guy who ate Brad Huff, as my good friend Josh Johnson said. And I was never stronger. I could do anything on the bike.
So you went 150, dropped to 137 as an answer to what you felt was a poor performance in Japan.
Correct.
Went to 137. Then from that to the time that you went to 200, what time frame?
From the end of 2000 to 2003. That was 2 or 3 years. Got a nutrition degree along the way. And while I was learning proper nutrition, but it was your traditional Western medicine style, Inaccurate food pyramid.
6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates.
Correct. All the things,
Well, no wonder you got to 200 pounds.
Well, yes, I was really depressed. I was still eating like I was an endurance athlete, but I wasn't really exercising as much because I had a strained Achilles and I was trying to get it back. Kind of roller coaster with that. And then when I came back as the guy who ate Brad Huff around 200 pounds, I was more powerful than I've ever been in my entire career. I was doing things that I'd never thought I was going to be able to do. Super strong. Hooked up with a teammate in Springfield, Missouri. His name is Doug Greek. He's now Dr. Doug Greek. And we were two big guys. He was, I think, close to 300-ish pounds whenever he got on a bike. Incredible story. He keeps a picture in his wallet of his driver's license photo, which his head took up the entire photo frame on the driver's license because he was so massive.
Now, was he a professional cyclist at one time?
He made it to Cat 1.
Okay.
So we were two monsters on the bikes. I mean, we were big guys. This story will go down in history as one of my best stories. We went to this collegiate mountain bike race. We were both in college at the time, and I made the breakaway of 4 people. I make it to the finish. I get 4th because it's a really hilly race. Doug breaks away from the field and ends up getting like 5th or 6th in front of the pack chasing us. Well, someone didn't know I had a teammate in the race, and so they didn't know I made the breakaway. And at the finish line, they see Doug cross the finish line, and they're like, who the hell is that? How did Brad Huff get up there? There's no way Brad Huff made it up into the race to get that placing. There's no way he cheated. And Doug's wife, Amber D, she was at the finish line, and this person didn't know it was Doug's wife. And she goes, oh, no. That's Brad's teammate, Doug. And he looked at her and looked at his buddies and said, they got 2 fat guys? And I loved it because that was us. We were the bad news bears. We showed up and people knew we meant business.
Yeah.
We weren't going to back down from any fight. And we were ruthless in the Midwest. Doug won, I think, 3 or 4 state time trial championships. And then I went on to become a professional and kind of, become one of the fastest sprinters in the US of that time in criterium racing and some road racing. I never made it to the Tour de France level, but I competed against those individuals. They were really fast, and I was just lucky enough to be in the races. Closest I got to some of the superstars was like a 3rd and a 5th.
Still impressive. It
was impressive. Now that I look back, having been a staunch, clean athlete out of what I did, a kid with a 60 VO2 from a farm town with work ethic just showed if you show up consistently, what you can get done. And that's what I'm really proud about my career. I was consistent. I was methodical. I definitely did blunt force trauma a lot, but I was able to forge through and realize my capacity and my potential.
How common are eating disorders in cycling?
Very. Male and female. Very common.
Yeah.
Because it's strength to weight ratio, watts per kilogram. Everything is so vital throughout the millennia of athletes, endurance athletes. But recently, calories, carbohydrates are king. People do not fear them anymore on the bike. When I was coming up the ranks, you feared carbohydrates. You feared fueling yourself. Eating was cheating. And I really attached to that. And I tried to be as lean as possible. And it cost me a lot of performances, even as a professional, and a lot of developmental years that I missed out on.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. We have one of the country's best eating disorder clinics here in Tulsa.
Really?
Laureate. Yeah. It's nationally, if not internationally known. And one of the doctors that runs it's a gal named Catherine Godwin. She's fantastic. And she came into my office one day. We were just talking about the rarity of me personally, just as a physician, seeing a male with an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked her, I said, how often do you see men with eating disorders? And she said, we don't see them as often. She said, usually theirs manifests more in that they have sort of a working out disorder.
Correct.
Right.
Body dysmorphia.
That's right. And so, I've developed some pretty disciplined habits over the years. I get up almost every morning about 4:50 and down here in the gym. We're sitting in the gym right now.
Fasted or non-fasted?
Fasted.
Ooh, okay.
And work out. And then I run almost every day. Some days I bike. But the point is just when she was saying that, I said, well, Dr. Godwin, I said, tell me a little bit more about that. I just wanted to see if there was something that I needed to reflect back on myself. And her take on that was, you have a busy practice, you have a family, I have 6 kids, and she said, you seem to be keeping everything together. It doesn't sound like you have an eating disorder, right? It's not falling into the category where it alters your activities of daily living, which I thought was really insightful. But it is interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot of us that for whatever mental health component it fits, it does tap into something.
Of course.
Right. And we'll come back to that a little bit. But you said that you thought that it helped you with mental fitness, right? And ADHD. So I'm going to guess that ADHD, was that a diagnosis when you were a kid?
No, self-diagnosed.
When I was a kid, I was just a hyperactive kid, right? They would have called it ADHD and had me on medicines at this point.
My brother was on Ritalin like his whole childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt bad for him.
Yeah, because it squelches their personality.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it is a shame. So how's he doing now?
He became an incredible military man. He made it to an officer rank, previously enlisted. He made it to a chief, and then he was accepted officer school, became an 03 in the Navy. He was the 2-time Sailor of the Year for Panama City Beach, Florida. I mean, he went from juvenile delinquent to Sailor of the Year for Panama City Beach, Florida, the base. Then he became 2014 NAVC, that's the acronym for it. Don't ask me what it means,
right?
Which is roughly 1/3 of the Navy. He was the Sailor of the Year. I
Wow.
mean, this guy went from juvenile delinquent, small little farm town, hanging out with the wrong friends, doing the wrong things, to very high rank in the Navy, and very respected. He was an EOD officer, just incredible human. Father of 3, retired, really living his best life now, moved back to the small farm town, helping run our family farm. I'm just ecstatic on what my brother has done for his life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you participated in sports as a kid, every sport,
Yep.
right? And then you found the bike. And you're saying that you think you did this in hindsight. You look back, you think you were sort of tapping into something that it did for you psychologically as well as the physical exertion.
Right. Just as a kid, there was some instability at home, just mom working her ass off, dad working. And I just used activity to escape. And I did that as a young adult also to escape, but I didn't realize how it was helping me stabilize my mental health along the way. And it was, as I have told many therapists, it was an escape, but it actually was me stabilizing that anxiety, that angst that was in me, to the point where that farm kid work ethic of just working yourself to the bone, the day wasn't done until I was fully exhausted, type of a thing. And so now I'm really realizing, had I added some more grace in there, some better calories in there, what I could have been. And so I really want to step forward for other individuals, doesn't matter what level of athleticism they're going for, to help them see it differently, to treat themselves with more respect, not like a rented mule, like I like to say. We athletes tend to treat ourselves as a perpetual motion machine that can do it just on endless caffeine or 0-calorie electrolyte drinks. That doesn't get it. Fake sugars don't get real results. And focusing on pure grit only leaves a human a pile of dust at the end of the day. And if we allow more grace in that, we can truly create a diamond that can handle any type of impact, a more durable, resilient individual. And they have more joy in the activity. And so I never allowed myself to really, truly smile. Nothing was good enough. Even winning wasn't good enough. The time when I won a bronze medal at the World Championships, I cried because I didn't do better.
Is that right?
I was so upset at myself because I failed the national team. I failed myself, but I didn't look at the big picture. I didn't look at what it took to get there, how I overcame sickness for the last 10 days before I even went to the world championships, how I wanted to quit every race. And there was a small moment of clarity before the last race, which was going to determine who got bronze or fourth. And I was in the start house. It was a timed event, a 1 kilometer timed event. And I was freaking out. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I was breathing in the start house. It's this big gate. It holds you and you count down from 30 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you take off. And in the last 5 seconds, I took a big breath and I looked in the stands and there was an individual from St. Louis, Missouri. His name's Mike Murray. He's an old USCF official. And he just looked at me and it was this moment of clarity and like, he nodded, hey, Brad. And it was just like, everything was calm and still. And I was like, hey, Mike, 3, 2, 1, go. And it was incredible. I just had this moment of calm come over me because I saw someone I knew. I was in Palma, Mallorca, an island in the Mediterranean off the coast of Spain. And, you know, I didn't have any family there. I didn't have anyone. I had the national team, but this person from St. Louis, Missouri was right in that front. And it was just so incredible. It's those moments of clarity, moments of awareness that can help us really be in the present moment and take the weight off of ourselves. And so I want to be able to give that to other athletes along the way. It doesn't matter what your age is. We're all inner athletes. We're all looking for a bit of calm, a bit of support, a bit of connection. And I want to be able to use and leverage all of that experience and frustration and kind of judgment that I put on myself and to use it in a more positive manner for other individuals.
Did you have any pressure other than self-pressure? Like, were your parents real demanding?
Never.
No, it was all just...
No. I mean, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of 4, so I put a lot of pressure on myself and I had to do a lot of things that when I was told. But no, it was always a lot of internal pressure to show up.
Where do you think that came from?
A lot of just kind of instabilities in the home and what I just kind of gravitated towards.
Yeah.
Helping mom have more stability by thinking like me as the little child can fix that. Now that I've kind of educated myself and done a lot of MeSearch in this, I'm in a master's program at Mizzou, a master's of education with emphasis on athletic leadership and sports management. And it's really a sports psychology degree, kind of hidden in education. And I'm realizing that that was a lot of things that I was doing as a child to find purpose, to find stability, to help my matriarch in my life be more grounded. And she was leveraging me. And so that created a good codependent boy in little Brad. I'm a people pleaser. I want to do well. And so in everything in athletics, it was that way. And so then whenever I got into cycling, I started performing really well and I wanted to keep that going. And so, yeah, I was out to prove. I was out to prove that one high school coach that was an asshole. I was going to prove him wrong. I was going to prove everyone wrong that thought I was not going to be able to make it. I was, subpar athlete. And so I just used pure grit to get there.
To get you there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called Spark. I think we talked about it once. Yeah. It's written by a psychiatrist. Each chapter deals with the effects of exercise and various mental health issues, like depression, postpartum depression, schizophrenia. And it's really interesting. He goes in, it's a little bit of a tough read, talks a lot about the neurotransmitters in different parts of the brain.
Yep.
But, prior to medications, a lot of the recommendations at one time were related to exercise. The problem is when you have somebody that's depressed and you tell them to exercise, they don't necessarily exercise, right? I mean, they don't feel like exercising. I don't know how it is for you, but for me, if I'm not having a good day, there's a good chance it's because I didn't get my exercise in.
Right.
And when I get my exercise in, if I come home and I'm in a bit of a foul mood or something like that, if I go for a run, I mean, it's almost 100% that sorts out.
Right.
I always say, and this is completely inappropriate, but it's just the best analogy I have. But, just being assholes, some woman's yelling at us or whatever, kind of a typical guy response is, oh, you're on your period, right?
Right.
I'm not saying it's appropriate. It's completely inappropriate, but that's what we do.
Right.
Well, if I'm kind of bitching about something, it doesn't matter. It could be 100% legit. It could be the most legit thing in the world that a person could gripe about. Right. But if I do that, my wife will kind of look at me and say, did you run today?
Yeah. Are you on, is your hormones a little out of balance? Maybe you need to step outside.
That's right. But the reality of it is that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. And there's something about it. It's self-leveling. Kind of the point of this podcast, right, is just meet people where they're at.
Right.
And get them. And if they're 454 pounds and they're working, or they're 137 pounds, I mean, we all have these internal demons and we mask them in different ways and we find coping mechanisms. And if you're blessed to have your coping mechanism be exercise, that's fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so many have it as eating, that's got all the deleterious effects. Worse yet, alcohol, drugs, promiscuity. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it sounds like you kind of self-medicated, maybe overdosed a little bit at one
big
time, and then kind of came back. Clearly what I'm hearing is a guy whose identity is very much wrapped up in his athleticism.
Correct.
And you are an incredible athlete.
You can Google me and you'll see the identity.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I got your Wikipedia right here in front of me. So when you're retired from athletics.
Air quotes, retired. Yeah.
Right. I see physicians that retire. I have a good friend and he was one of my business partners and he retired. He was a fantastic doc. I mean, just there's nothing this guy doesn't know. Still to this day, he's retired and still knows more than I ever will. And when he retired, he really, really struggled because all of his identity was wrapped up in being a physician. That's just who it was. And so there's no real glamour in being a gastroenterologist, right? But I can only imagine being a professional cyclist. I mean, that's a pretty glamorous gig. So what was retirement like?
Hell.
Yeah, you got these kind of peripheral ADHD, you self-medicate with this, and then you're kind of giving away the drug that treats you.
Yep. As athletes, all we know is movement. I have an incredible friend who won the Unbound 200 gravel race, Yuri Hushwald. He says, move your mood. And we as athletes, we are gifted with that virtue of movement, be lucky to be healthy enough to do all of that. And then when we take that away, that purpose drive that the doctor has or the athlete has, and you take that away, what do you do with all of that drive, all of that determination? Where do you direct it? As athletes, we don't know anything else but just blunt force trauma or movement or action to reach a goal, to have a purpose. And so in my transition, it's been fucking hell to figure this out. And I have been a mess. I've had a relationship fall apart. COVID happened during this transition. And in this, it's realizing what is the reason I'm truly trying to move my mood. It's to have more stable nervous system, a more stable angst in my life, to not be searching for this thing to validate me and understanding I am more than what I do. I have value for just being Brad. And my life through all this experience has really strengthened who Brad is, even though I didn't realize that. And so I'm now finally, I'm hoping each day to step into the best form of myself. Being more genuine, being more empathetic, being more appreciative, having more gratitude for everything I did and appreciation for those around me. I was gifted this book, From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And it's incredible where we have two curves in life. If we're holding on to that ego, or if we're holding on to that identity, that's when we struggle the most. That's when we have the most difficulties. We tend to step towards vices. We have the most difficulties in life. And if we can let that go and step into our second curve in life, and really rely on all that experience and all that value that we've built up in life. If we can gift that to others, that's what I'm really trying to do in my transition. And that's what a lot of doctors tend to get into, is some humanitarian aid or ways to share this, to take it on the road or connect with others, or they become professors or something to share this with those around them, just like you're doing on this podcast. And so how can you give this life that you've lived, this education that you've built up, this knowledge in athletics, how can we give that more value than a degree, than a gold medal? Because most of us don't get gold medals. Most of us don't get degrees. Some, if we're lucky enough, C's get degrees, but how do we actually leverage that to change people's lives? And so that's what I'm really trying to do in this transition, which is scary as fuck.
Right.
Because there's no end of this. It's trying to better myself each day and then carrying that over to others, to share my insecurity, share my vulnerability, share what I'm just trying to work on each day, which is bettering myself and making good food choices. Not using exercise as a vice, because it is my number one vice besides caffeine, besides dark chocolate. How can I actually use these vices to make sure they are virtues in my life? That's what I'm really trying to focus on.
When you retired, did you try to replace that void with
work? Went straight into a startup job and just put my head down and grind. But I didn't know what I was grinding for. As I like to say, in that area of business, I felt like I was shooting arrows into an abyss daily. They weren't hitting any type of a bullseye. They weren't even fucking close. I was in a realm where that's the only thing you did, is you just kept punching at air and you didn't know if you were hitting anything. And so I had the option to step away from it. And even in that, I was like, what am I even doing with my life? I've been driven athlete for 20 some years, and I go into a startup job and I'm going to put that same intensity into it. But if they're doing that same athletic work ethic style, they're not slowing down and looking at the big picture and having appreciation for what we're actually putting in towards this. then we don't even know where we're going. And so that was a gift to go to that job and experience and be around some of the biggest minds in the world that worked at Red Bull, that worked at Nike, that worked at Skull Candy, that worked at Logic Tech, that was a leader, captain of the USC football team, was, played in the NFL. All these incredible humans I was around, but we're all grinding and using this grit. But are we actually slowing down to really appreciate that process and seeing the value we're really making at a greater whole instead of a data point we're trying to reach on an Excel spreadsheet on profitability? No.
Right. Yeah.
I'm over it.
Yeah. All too many people do that for an entire career and never find their way.
And so I invested so much of my life not going for money. I was going at it for just the satisfaction of effort to try to reach a goal. And then when I got into the business world, it seemed like everything had been flipped on its head. And so I'm lucky enough to come back into a position in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Tulsa Tough to help create the Project Dudeman and be the head dude, to have that grace, to give that experience, to give that joy to other, or help people realize they are in joy. They are just having a distorted view of what joy truly is. It's not that grind. It's truly that portion of grace. Yeah, we all have grit. Everyone has a bit of grit in them. It just depends at what volume. And if it's nurtured, then it starts to thrive. And that's what I'm really trying to get at.
Good too. So you retired in 18, went to work, and then it's 2025, and you came and joined Tulsa Tough.
Yep.
And Project Dudeman. So full disclosure, I'm on the board of Tulsa Tough, and Brad works for Tulsa Tough.
Yep.
Right. And so,
which is how we met.
And
I ran into you. I stalked you twice on the trail.
Twice on the trail. That's right.
You were running your shirt off. You were looking good. I tracked you down.
So tell me about Tulsa Tough from your biking perspective, now that you've been in Tulsa, from a community perspective, and then also as a racer. I think you won it 1 year, didn't you? Won it twice.
It's called Tulsa Huff in the fine print. So Tulsa Tough is the Super Bowl of criterium racing. It is the biggest event in the United States. The racing calendar has kind of dwindled, but Tulsa Tough has thrived. I think it's the 13th year or more at this point.
19th.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm young at heart. It is the Super Bowl of cycling in the United States. It is the go-to race that everyone hinges their season around. It has the best prize purse, the most notoriety, and it has that 19-year legacy that individuals that win it typically go on to bigger things. Luke Lamparty won it last year. He's in the Giro doing crazy lead outs and everything, the Giro d'Italia. And now that I'm here, Tulsa Tough is a celebration of the community. That's what it is. It is truly a coming together of the total community, those that ride bikes and those that don't ride bikes, to celebrate Tulsa as a whole. And do it in some of the greatest districts, the Brady District, the Blue Dome, and River Parks, to be able to go and highlight these areas that the entire community utilized, not only for hospitality, for connection, but also movement. This community in Tulsa is a outdoor-centric minded community that gets out the door. We have this great access to the River Parks trail system on the Arkansas River, Turkey Mountain. And really, the criterium races is just a small portion, a small celebration of all of that. And so getting to be here is really incredible. One of the co-founders, Malcolm, called me this winter and said, "Hey, Brad, I introduced you to these two individuals last year at the Darryl and Julie Christner Family Foundation, and they gave us a donation. They want to help support the race, and they also want to help support the community. And I want you to come here and support this community to create this program that I'm calling Project Dudeman." And I immediately said, "Why me? Are you sure you want me? My life is in disorder. I don't know what I'm doing. I just started this master's program to try to figure out something in my life. Why would you bring me? I mean, I'm putting it on the internet of how I'm struggling all this." And he said, "You're the exact guy I need. You're the exact guy I want. Everything you're doing, it resonates with what this Project Dudeman is going to be and will be. And I hope that you can be the one that heads it." I just swallowed a lot of pride, and I was like, I got to let my ego go on this and not being perfect, because everything I did in my previous life was perfection. Everything had to be perfection in order to keep up with these F1 engines in the world of athletics and cycling. I was like a giant V8 with a big supercharger, but I overheated really fast. Actually, I said I was a 4-cylinder with a giant turbo that overheated really fast. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So to come into this new world and not be perfect, I didn't want to show up. I was afraid. I was letting my perfectionism get in the way. And Malcolm just said, no, man, just give it a chance. I know we can do, we can. And when he said it hit a tone where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel seen, I feel heard, and I feel desired for what I am bringing to the table, which is my vulnerability, my authenticity. And whenever he connected me with in that way to say, hey man, all of that is what I want. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to give this a chance.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to impart on all these guys, all these dudes that I get to ride with, and the divas who show up, is just show up. Just give it a chance, because that's what I'm doing here. I don't have my life together. I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm showing up with my best intentions and my best self. And I'm educating myself along the way. And so getting to be a part of this incredible community is allowing me to bring out my best self and bring out the best in others.
You mentioned the Divas. Tell us just briefly about the Divas.
The Divas, that's why I thought 13 years. The Divas has been around for 13 years. They have nearly 300 women in the community that come together, that ride together every week from gravel to mountain to road. And that's been going on for 13 years. So they built this empire of divas all around the Tulsa area. And they have, I think, 6 different speeds, and they use divas in the world of music. They have Dolly Parton as the slower group, J-Lo is the faster group, Cher, Madonna. And then for Project Dudeman, we took that same style and we created 3 groups. Bruce Lee is the fastest group, Be Like Water. The second group is Macho Man Randy Savage, because they're, pretty boisterous, but, maybe they got a little work to do. And then Mr. T is the slower group. They got a little bit more bling. They might be a little bit slower, but everyone is desirable. Everyone is a key person in this family, in this team. And we've actually had rides where we all ride together, and we go to the hill and we ride the hill together. We do it at different speeds, but we're all out there as a unit. And so I'm really helping build in that camaraderie. I like to say the 5 F's, which is number 1, fun, to stay engaged in fun instead of disengaged in fun. And then it's just FU. So no FU, only FUN. Freedom. Cycling is freedom. Cycling is also fellowship. We're out there, on this ride together, as we like to say, just ride your bike, dude. And then friendship. Friendship is key in a lot of these categories. I think it was Marcus Aurelius had a big thing about friendship and connecting, in one of the greatest virtues in life. And then at the end of it all, what's the fringe benefit of all of this? Fitness. I mean, holy shit, who knew that riding a bike was also great for our mindset, for our well-being, for our social connection, but also everyone thinks of cycling as fitness. Well, fitness is a fringe benefit of what we've got going on. And these guys are gaining camaraderie, they're gaining competence, and they're gaining confidence, and they're boosting their self-worth along the way, along with myself. And so that's really the cool thing about Project Dudeman and what we're doing for the 5 F's there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Tulsa Tough, when it was originally created by Malcolm and Chris and Dotson and all those guys, the mission statement, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's elevate Tulsa's profile and promote active lifestyles.
Yeah.
It wasn't even originally designed as a bike race. I mean, it was a bike race, but the point was to promote active lifestyles. And this was the venue that they decided to do it in.
And we're lucky. And here's what we created for Project Dudeman. I helped create for Project Dudeman. Project Dudeman is a men's riding club with a mission to have fun, build friendships, and to free all cyclists from the stigma associated with mental fitness and well-being. The club encourages riders to show up and share the stoke. Each pedal stroke builds individual resilience and potential. And that's where it goes along with the same ethos that Tulsa Tough has, is to build the community. And it's just showing up. And look what they've created after 19 years.
Right. Your 5 F's there, you talk about just the connection that you have, right? And that's probably, I don't know, from what I'm getting from what you're saying, definitely what I'm hearing is that's the tantamount, just the medium to build the connection.
Right.
In one of the podcasts, we talk about the blue zones. Blue zones are these areas where there's a disproportionate number of centenarians. People live to be 100. Dan Buettner went in and looked at these 5 communities across the globe and discern 9 different characteristics that they all have in common. But one of them was a sense of community and kind of a sense of purpose within a community. And it's interesting because so many of these bike clubs, we've got some great bike clubs here in Tulsa, Tulsa Wheelman, Sound Pony, 36P. And those guys are incredible cyclists, right? Not your level, but just, but if a guy like me went out there and tried to bike with
we all put our spandex on the same.
Well, yeah, but they take theirs off a whole lot sooner because they just, they're great cyclists and they go out and they do what they're doing. Like they're not doing anything wrong. there's just not a role for just the average cyclist.
Right.
And to me, Project Dudeman is perfect for that. It clicks all those other boxes, right? But even if you're under the illusion that you had no mental health issues, right? Which we know is bullshit.
Yeah,
but
no one does.
No one does. But even if you thought you were and you just weren't a good cyclist, that's still the perfect deal, right? Because you get the community, you can self-select into whatever group you want.
Totally.
And you're there supported, right? It's not a matter of trying to figure out who's the slowest guy and who's the fastest. If you're all in the hills at some point, you don't even know who's in the lead.
And there's no piss and vinegar out there in my groups. If it happens, we let them go off on their own. In fact, some of the fastest guys in the Bruce Lee, they step down and do the Mr. T at times because they're like, hey man, I'm tired. I've already done this and this week. I'm going to do the Mr. T. And so in that group, like, shoot, let's create a little tiny blue zone here in Tulsa.
Right.
Because it is such an outdoor centric. We have this gift that has been built up over the years, thanks to the River Parks District and a lot of donors like the Darryl and Julie Christner Family Foundation, is to have access to the outdoors, have access to this freedom, and then also build this community and connection of one another, this like-minded purpose. And man, I'm seeing these guys and myself thrive because of it. Yes, they're getting a little bit healthier. One of the individuals who's the corner post at Tulsa Tough, Brad Spear, he's lost, I think he told me it was 37 pounds at this moment, and he's probably down to 5 now, but down 4 belt loops, and he's down 2 medications. And he used to race. He used to race bikes. He was, I think he was a Cat 3, maybe Cat 2, but he hasn't done it for years just because of stress and life and stepdad life and being a real dad, and all those aspects. But now he's getting on the bike and he's refining his purpose for himself and those around him, and he's become a leader. He's one of the Mr. T leaders. I have other riders that are showing up that in the society's view, you would see them and you wouldn't deem them an athlete. But if you got to know them, you would realize they are an athlete. They were one of the superstars of the wrestling world. They were a top level football player. They could literally lift a house. They were so strong, but give them a chance. Give them a chance. Talk to them. Get to know their story. Connect with them and realize we have so much more in common than just riding a bicycle.
Right. Yeah, Dan Buettner with the Blue Zones, they've got areas where they've gone in. Albert Lee, Minnesota was one of them where they picked it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they went in, and it's not a blue zone, but they went in and tried to import and try to do things to make those cities better. Like, I think it was Albert Lee that did this, but they wanted to widen the street so they could drive faster, but instead they put bike lanes in, right? So actually made people drive slower, but encouraged bike use. But Tulsa, you're right. Tulsa's kind of a dichotomy. We're in one of the most obese states, but Tulsa's a relatively healthy. And we have the Gathering Place. It's a $500 million park, $500 million park funded by a local philanthropist. We've got Turkey Mountain. We've got bike lanes, right? I don't see them occupied as much as we need, but we've got them. When they built the Gathering Place, which is on the river. It's this huge park. For those of you that haven't been to Tulsa, it's this huge park. It's just absolutely incredible. There is essentially no parking lot for that, right? The plan is to have people park and walk to it. We have, within the last, 12 years, they built the BOK Center, which is a concert venue downtown. They built 0 additional parking when they built that. There was a big to-do about it. And everybody kind of complained like, oh my God, there's no parking. For at least 10 of the 12 years it's been open, it's been in the top 10 venues in the country.
Right.
The performers love it. It's fantastic. It's got incredible acoustics. I love a live show. I go to concerts all the time. I can walk out of that venue, get in my car, and be home in 15 minutes. Right? And I have to walk to the car, right? So
you could walk there.
But then walking home might be a little uncomfortable.
Or you could ride your bike.
Or you could ride your bike.
Right. And there's ways to get there, like on the city streets that are safe.
That's right.
And that's the incredible thing of some of these cities that are incorporating more sound, more community-centric ways to use alternative transportation.
Yeah.
And Tulsa is one of those.
Yeah.
And we're really lucky at that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've got all the right parts, we just got to put them together. So could you tell us more about the Christner Foundation?
They changed their structure of their statement on there, but in essence, they lost 2 of their individuals and their family to suicide. And they have created this foundation to support mental health, addiction support, and suicide prevention. And they wanted to connect with Tulsa Tough because Darryl used cycling to manage a lot of his stress that he had in life. He probably didn't divulge enough to really manage all of it, but they saw the value that cycling gave him in his life and the connection that he had in his life because of cycling. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to carry forward on their mission, which is building that connection, building that emotional support, building that mental fitness within our community, not just in the dudes that decide to be a part of Dudeman, but the greater Tulsa area. Anyone that wants to come and ride with us or be a part of us can do that because of the Darryl and Julie Christner Family Foundation support, because we don't want socioeconomic status to limit someone from coming out and riding their bike and connecting with individuals and seeing the value that the bike can bring. I don't know the full grasp of what their mission statement is, but I know what it's doing for the cycling community and is huge. They've already donated multi-million dollars and helped build onto Turkey Mountain. And it seems like the Dudeman is just another facet of their desire to give more to the community, to give the community more access to get outside, to move their mood, to connect with others and better themselves along the way.
I had the pleasure of meeting Darryl a few times. Our kids went to school together, and I didn't know him well, but it was a tragedy. And the boys, they went to school with my boys, a couple of my kids, actually, one of my daughters. Just a good family.
Yeah.
I hate the tragedy that they've gone through, but it speaks volumes about who they are and what they're doing for our community.
Right. And they're behind it. They're so excited. I actually got to meet them last year at the press conference for Tulsa Tough, and Malcolm was speaking on the importance of play on his speech, and the importance of play and how we've lost play in our lives as adults. You know, in this performance-driven society, we lose the sight of finding joy in life, actually having fun in this, having play. And cycling can be that access to play in our lives. And that's what we have in the river park system, the trail system, everything that's out there. And bikes can unlock that for others, as can running, as can other sports. You know, there's basketball goals along their way, there's pump tracks, there's everything. But I was able to meet Julie and Josh there. And in his speech, he was like, you know, there's also a pro cyclist who shared some of his transition difficulties, mental health and everything. I don't even know if he's here, but raise your hand, Brad, if you're here. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I raised my hand in the back. I'm standing by Chris Z. And I was able to be introduced to Julie and Josh, in their presence was the thing that brought me so much empathy for their situation and how they're showing up for a community where they know they've had so much loss. The way they came up to me after Malcolm made me stand up in the front of the entire St. Francis conference, doctors and everything, said, hey, this guy's got mental health issues. Yeah. He's using cycling. They came over and they had open arms. They had open hands, open arms. And they said, we are so happy to meet you. Malcolm has told us about you. And I had no clue of what they had planned to support Tulsa Tough and what was going on. And man, it's just amazing how these small little connections in life really build to something greater. And so I'm so fortunate to have been at that press conference and raise my hand, being willing to speak up and say that, yeah, I'm struggling, but I'm here.
That's fantastic. So, well, I think we've done a good job of overviewing what you've done, where you're at, Project Dudeman. I'd say, you know, this is probably as good a place to close as any for this one. Is there a way people can reach out to you if they want? Do you have an Instagram handle?
So yeah, it's at Project Dudeman. You can also go to tulsatough.com, and we have a little section on the Tulsa Tough website right there for Project Dudeman. You can check us out. You can reach out to me. We have a private Facebook group if you join. You know, it's just an incredible aspect. And if you're a woman in the area of Tulsa, you can also join the Divas. I know I'm doing it well whenever some of the divas show up and some of the other women in the community show up and they say, are you doing this every week? Especially like Turkey Mountain. And I say, oh yeah, we're doing it every week. And they lean in a lot closer and they say, can I come? And I said, yeah, everyone is welcome. Doesn't matter who you are. Right. You don't have to be a dude. You don't have to be a diva.
Just don't tell Jersey.
Yeah, just don't tell Jersey. She'll get upset. You know, you just you have to have the desire to better yourself. That's all you have to show up with. And I feel very fortunate to have that. So at Project Dudeman on Instagram, or you can reach out to me at Huffy USA.
Brad, I mean, it's fantastic having you here on the podcast. I'm super honored, but it's just a pleasure to have you as part of Tulsa Tough and to have you leading this. You are the exact right guy. Before Malcolm introduced you to us that night, he told us about it, and I was like, okay, I mean, you know, Malcolm's got a little man crush on this dude, whatever.
Right.
Immediately when you came in, I saw what he saw.
Mm.
You are the perfect guy. So thanks for coming to Tulsa. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a friend.
Thanks for that. I felt that. Thanks.
I'm your host, Dr. Drew Crawford. Join me next week as we go beyond measurements and image to build healthier lifestyles and elevate your well-being on the BMI podcast. See you then. The BMI podcast is provided for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute providing medical advice or professional services. Be sure to check out our description below for our website and social media platforms.